The Auxiliary Board of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens, celebrating over 65 years of unwavering love and support for the former Seiverling estate and carrying on their tradition of non nobis solum, not for us alone. Dedicated to the mission of supporting the management of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens, Inc., by interpreting Stan Hywet as a cultural and educational center, by raising funds to provide all possible financial support and promoting volunteer services. The August 2023 Auxiliary Board meeting featured a very special presenter, our very own Shelley Funai, Senior Horticulturist and Grounds Manager at Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens, speaking about plants and their connections to humans. Recorded in the Carriage House Meeting Room at Stan Hywet on August 23, 2023.
Welcome, everyone. So nice to see you all again. We got 3 mics here, so I'm feeling well heard here. In case you don't know, we're experimenting with something here new. Nick, our provisional, Nick Zaklanovich, is recording this because we want to be able to record the talks, not so much me and other speakers, but so he's recording this for us, and we're also live on Zoom as well. So to start the meeting, I just want to say please put your cell phones on mute, and to those of you who are on Zoom, please mute. Even if you're alone, background noise carries, disrupts the speaker. Thank you. And I would introduce our Vice President, Ken Nielsestoon, who will introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Darby. She left out the best part. If everybody will get out their directories, we decided at the executive committee meeting we're going to group proofread these. All right? Okay. Here we go. Shelley Funai, who was kind enough to say yes when I asked her to come talk to us, is going to talk to us today about plants and their connections to humans. As a little bit of background, she works here at Stan Hywet, a paid employee. She's our senior horticulturist and grounds manager, and just celebrated her 20th anniversary with Stan Hywet in June. She, in addition to her duties here, where you'll find her often in the... Yes, you can't hear? Well, now that you can hear me, buy a patron pass. You'll find Shelley most often on the southwest and west terrace here on the grounds, and also teaching at Tri-C. So with that brief introduction, Shelley, you're up.
Thank you. So I suppose I should stay near this microphone, is that correct? Okay. All right. So yes, you'll hear me talk about my husband, Jim, who is the full-time professor at Tri-C in the plant science program. So we have 2, a little louder. Hello.
Closer to you.
All right. All good on your end, Nick?
Wait, we can turn it up.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we get some feedback. Hello? That sounds good? Okay. I got a thumbs up. Director cut. So my husband Jim works at Tri-C as a full-time professor in the plant science program. So we have 2 plant nerds at our house, and it gets a little scary sometimes. So anyway, when I was asked to do this talk, we thought about maybe relating it to the theme in the house this year, which is relationships. And so I'm going to talk about plants and their connections to humans because I know about plants. And let's see. I don't know if your clicker works. So there's many ways to interpret this topic, plants and their connections to humans. So, as I'm thinking about this, and I was kind of getting excited about all the different ways that we could think about this and how I want to approach this. So first of all and foremost, agriculture, absolutely. It goes way back, and people needed to survive back then, so they did everything they could to use nature and what they had. So when you think agriculture, your first thing you think about is food, of course, and crops and grains. But what about textiles and building materials? Again, like I said, they needed to find something to survive and build their civilization. So immediately, people had a connection to plants. We can also go down the wormhole of medicinal plants. I put a few examples here, but this goes way back. And the first one there I have is lungwort, which is Pulmonaria as the genus. Anytime you see a plant that has wort in the name, usually means it came from a relationship of medicinal plants. And it was kind of weird because back then they would say, well, this plant looks like a lung in this example here, but use your imagination. I don't know what they see on that plant that looks like a lung. I don't know if it's the spots in the leaves or what. I'm sorry? Oh, is that coming through on the Zoom? Oh, hey, Pam. We're going to mute you.
Can you mute, please?
I'll try to mute.
Okay. That was creepy. Like, where is that coming from? Wow. Okay. You all set, Pam? Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Where was I? We were talking about lungwort and how it has the spots on its leaves. And another example is Tanacetum parthenium, which is feverfew. That common name comes from the fact that they used to use it to treat fevers. Over time, we learned that some of these, not so much. They could be poisonous or in high doses can kill you. You'll see that as a theme in this presentation. We also have Sanguinaria canadensis. I tried to add plants that we can relate back to Stan Hywet. So here is one of the ephemeral plants that we have in the Dell. So you can find bloodroot in the Dell as one of our Ohio wildflowers. And first they thought, or they called it bloodroot because they thought it would treat blood-borne symptoms and different things with that. But also, the Indians would use that red sap out of the root that looked like blood for dyeing their different products. Jim and I were up in Cleveland 2 weeks ago. We were at the Asian Plaza, if anybody's been up there. It's like a conglomerate of different stores and restaurants. Pretty neat if you haven't checked it out. But one thing they had there was the Chinese herbal medicine pharmacy. And it is very old school. You can go in there and, I don't practice any of this stuff, but for me and Jim, it's really interesting to go in there and see the different plants. And we get nerdy and read all the scientific names on each jug. And the picture on the left there is actually Gladitsia frutescens, I think, which is the Chinese honey locust. And what I liked about that jar was there's actual pieces of the bark and the long 3-inch thorns in there. So I'm assuming they grind this up, mortar and pestle, put it in a tea of some sort. Like I said, I'm not an expert at the Chinese herbal medicine, but we like looking at the labels anyway. So again, another way that a long time that humans have been using plants in different ways. Plant-based rituals, whether it's religious or not. My husband really thought that was hilarious to put a 2 laurel on there. This is Julius Caesar, and the laurel wreath is representing that he was victorious. So representation of the flowers. Talking with my coworkers, I said, well, what do you guys think when you think of plants that connect people? And Brian came up. Brian works in the Great Garden. He's like, well, what about heirloom plants? You're always passing them down to your children, or they came from your grandfather. And these are plants that we've used for many, many, many centuries because they're good varieties. So I thought that was a really interesting way to interpret it, of how we're connecting people together with the plants. So I really liked that. Before I go next, I didn't put another slide, but I was thinking even more into this. Like I said, you can go down a wormhole with this, but what about even more modern uses? We were using them in renewable resources, plants, so we're still just finding new ways to use plants. So I picked out a couple things just to highlight that I thought were interesting. Ancient Egypt, they always talked about the sacred blue lotus, and the plant nerd in me really got into that part. And what's interesting is it's not actually about a lotus, it's about a blue water lily. There is a difference. So water lilies are the genus Nymphaea, lotus is Nelumbo. And if you want to see a difference between a water lotus and a water lily, you can go to the West Terrace pool right now. I have both. So the lotus is the center plants, the leaves are coming up out of the water, and they're perfectly round with the stem right in the center of the leaf. The color we have right now is just white, and they're just starting to bloom. The water lilies are all the colorful plants. The lily pads lay flat on the water, and then that's what we have pictured here is an actual water lily. So they really liked the water lilies because it symbolized rebirth. It's signifying the sun's daily journey, representing purity and a rebirth in the afterlife, because the blue water lilies would come up out of the water, out of the murky Nile water, and bloom, and then they would go back down at night. So here's different pictures showing it's usually women that are holding the flowers in their artwork. And that was because they also really liked the fragrance of the lily, and they thought the fragrance was healing. So you see that a lot in Egyptian artwork. I go in the pool on the West Terrace and clean all the leaves off, and they do have a scent. It's kind of urinal cake-like. It's very strong, and yeah, to each their own, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. You can actually still buy the sacred blue lotus. Has anybody been to Tricker's up in Independence? It's the nation's oldest water garden center in the nation. And I think they're a product of COVID where you can't go to the store anymore and shop there. You have to shop online, which kind of stinks. But if you ever get a chance to go there, they have glass greenhouses that are half sunk in the ground. And all the old mechanics of the greenhouse, very cool place to go. And I'm not going to read that to you, but what they were saying is that they used this sacred blue water lily in some of their hybridization to produce more lilies that John Tricker would make. So the second sentence says 1896, Blue Beauty water lily came from that water lily, so it's pretty cool. And I see they're out of stock. This is a current website. I just took a snippet and put it in there. But I thought that was cool that you could still buy the Egyptian blue water lily. And does anybody recognize this art piece? So I threw this in there because I wanted to bring it back to Stan Hywet. Joe actually made this art piece based off of the sacred lotus. And so he was kind of running these things past me, like, Shelley, how should I make this? Because, we bounce ideas off each other. And so what he's trying to show his image is he has this colorful water lily there. And then the metal pieces, they're kind of shaped like an oval underneath. He purposely rusted them so it represented that murky, muddy water, and then the colorful lily coming out. So if nobody got to talk to Joe about it, that's what he was trying to represent. I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, moving on to another culture. In Japan, they have what they call hana kotoba. And hana literally means flower, and kotoba means the language or words, so flower words. And they would use this to represent different flowers and their meanings for different things. And in the background, I just put a picture of the Cherry Blossom Festival, which is very important to them. And cherry blossoms would represent the impermanence of life, or basically life being short. And this is the Hanami Festival. So some examples that they would do, I see there's a lot of flower arrangers in the room. So you're familiar with Ikebana, which is their very very structured way of designing and purposeful. Hey, Sue.
Hi.
Shh. I don't know how to mute you. Don't talk to Harry, though. Okay.
I thought I was leaving.
So in a lot of cultures, and this is one that everybody knows and can identify, is roses. So red roses usually represent love. And you'll see that through so many cultures in America, everywhere. Chrysanthemums, of course. I kind of picked out some that I thought people would, oh yeah, of course. The Japanese love their chrysanthemums in the Cherry Blossom Festival. So for chrysanthemums, mums, it represented nobility and the imperial family. And then the last one there I thought was kind of interesting, the Lycoris radiata, the red spider lily. It can represent a funeral or passing. And I also read somewhere that it said if it's growing on a path, that's where people would part for good. Kind of sad, but interesting representation. If you get a chance, Longwood Gardens does a really nice chrysanthemum festival showing the different ways that they can crazy grow chrysanthemums and put them in different shapes. So I had a chance to go over there and check out how they start manipulating their chrysanthemum shrubs. So that's what that picture is, kind of behind the scenes, just starting to form. That was in January. So that's what it looks like. It just forms this massive display. So you have the daisy and the different kinds of Fuji mums. So anyway, I put the date on there in case you're interested.
I hope it's 23 and not 32.
Oops, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you've been waiting a long time. So not only do different flowers represent different meanings, and I wasn't going to put the whole long list of it because we could talk for days about different flowers. The sunflower or himawari depends on how many that you give somebody. So one sunflower as a gift would mean they fell for you at first sight. If you gave them 3, like that shows in the vase, is the confession of love. 7 would be secret love, like a secret admirer. 11 would be true love, and 108 means marry me. And I asked Jim, I'm like, so what's 109 mean? Like, that could be bad. I don't know. But I think it's just interesting that they really went in depth, and you find this with so many cultures. So I was just using the Japanese in their Hanakatoba as an example, but like I said, so many cultures do this. The French do this, and it really came popular, and we called it florography in the 19th century, especially in Victorian England. And it's just a way to express your emotions, and actually Victorians didn't really want to express their emotions directly. It was considered improper. So they would, just hand somebody a bouquet of flowers, and in that flower they can see what they mean. And also, actually, I borrowed this book from Nancy Coley, so if anybody's looking for a good book on this, this is Discovering the Meaning of Flowers. And this author, Shane Connolly, is a flower designer himself. And it's kind of more, at first I was kind of mad because he wrote his scientific names wrong in here, so I was being a stickler. I'm like, that's not how you write it. But it's more of a coffee table book, I would call it, because he has his, Instagrammable pictures with just little short blurbs. But it is interesting. He does show a little bit of the history, saying how women especially, you would think a man giving a bouquet to a woman, but actually it was women that did it at first, handing each other roses or whatever flower to kind of spread messages without saying anything. So I thought that was interesting. And he wrote another book called The Language of Flowers, but this book kind of really looks at love in particular. And I wanted to share just one of the pages out of here. It's just kind of entertaining. So this one is about yellow roses, and it says, life is not a bed of roses, and you certainly wouldn't want it to be a bed of yellow roses. Their meanings in the language of flowers of love range from infidelity via jealousy to the decline of love. None of this is good. The dead bee only adds to the misery. In Indian mythology, bees symbolize the sweetness of love and its potential to sting too. So, and here I thought yellow roses just meant friendship, you know? I'm like, wow, that's pretty deep. So I think it's pretty interesting if you want to get into that. Like I said, I wasn't going to do this whole presentation on all the meanings of all the flowers. There are so many, and like I said, they kind of change throughout the course of history. So what are some other weird plant uses in history besides medicine or agriculture or any of those things? And this is something maybe a lot of you have heard about, tussie-mussies or nosegays. So they would use herbs or a bouquet of fragrant flowers to ward off the odors that people had then because they don't know how to use soap. And what I found was, it was kind of interesting, if you were given a nosegay or a tussie-mussie, and it's presented in an upright position, it was a positive message, and if it was given to you in a pointed down position, it was a negative message. I don't know what that means other than what I just read of that. I'm just regurgitating what I read. So does that mean like you really, really are stanky today? So like here is, I don't know. But I had to throw that out there. I thought it was interesting. And also they would use these tussie-mussies as ways to show what they are feeling through the florography. So if you have a thing of daisies, it would mean one thing. So they were also using that representation in those nosegays and tussie-mussies. So I thought that was interesting. Same thing in the Victorian era. They were kind of doing seaweed collecting art. They had a very wide interest in nature and how to use it, and kind of expanding what they did with flowers and foliage. So here is just a nice, lovely note that somebody adorned with some beautiful, I would never even think to dry out seaweed, but it looks pretty nice. I laughed and laughed and laughed to myself in my office at home about flower taxidermy. I have never heard that term, and I love it. So here is a woman pressing flowers, doing dried floral arrangements. You guys are very well known for that. So here are some of our Stan Hywet flower taxidermists hard at work. Did you know they hide all their cadavers in the attic? And there's a lot up there. So we have our own flower taxidermist. I probably will call you guys that now from now on. It's great. I love it. And then we get into how people put different things in their drinks, and this is all historical. Hopefully nobody's doing this anymore. I have a few examples. Henbane was added to beer to enhance its intoxicating effects, but it's also used as an anesthesia, or it could kill you a little bit. You might feel the procedure going on and not enough, you know, you just, yeah. Absinthe, which is Artemisia absinthium, one of our wormwoods. Highly alcoholic drink. They did have it in the US for many years. It's finally banned. But if you drank too much, you could have hallucinations and madness. From what I understand, it seems like you could still get this in Europe, and that seems crazy.
Great garden.
yeah, the Great Garden, just walk right up there. Sweet woodruff, which, Sue, is another plant we have on the property, Gallium odoratum. Apparently the Germans made a drink called May wine out of this, and high doses cause dizziness, paralysis, coma, or death. So fun. I actually was using this book, the Wicked Plants book, and this book it's very doom and gloom, so if you're in that mode and you want to read about that. But there is some interesting things in there about different poisonous plants and how they were used. And then, of course, I put coca, which one word means cocaine. That's where cocaine came from, but it was used in the original Coca-Cola products, and that was extracted from the leaves. So yeah, very interesting. Another one that's interesting, the Atropa belladonna, I believe Darby and I were talking about this at one point, and this is one of the deadly nightshade families plants, which actually henbane is also in the deadly nightshade family. Tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, all nightshade family, and yes, if you eat tomato leaves, you're not going to feel so good. The fruits, however, are okay. obviously, to eat. But you got to watch that deadly nightshade family. So the Atropa belladonna in 16th century Italy, women would use this to dilate their pupils to make them look a little more beautiful. So here's this lady. And so I didn't want to end the presentation on doom and gloom. So today actually is my 15-year anniversary with my husband. I was blonde once, as you can see. So we got married on the West Terrace. This picture was in the English garden. And of course, I made my own bouquets and flower arrangements. And these are plants from Stan Hywet, except for the white lily. But you can see Lisianthus and the dahlias and the seed pods of the crocosmia. So I never really thought of myself as being sentimental to what plants mean what to me. But you definitely can feel that through the years. I have plants from my dad. And I continue to take cuttings and give them away and say, that's my dad's plant, stuff like that. So it's interesting to see how different people interpret how plants play a role in their life. So thank you. Thank you.
Questions, if there are any?
Any questions that I can help with? Plant related or about the talk or what's on your mind?
You didn't mention corn cobs, for example.
Corn cobs? What is there?
In the outhouse.
Oh.
There's a connection.
Yes. There's so many. We could go down a big wormhole. Yes.
Would you name the books and the authors?
Oh, yeah. No problem. So this one, Discovering the Meaning of Flowers by Shane Connolly. This one is on loan from the Manor House basement flower arranging room. To get with Nancy Coley, she'll probably let you borrow it. And this one is called Wicked Plants, The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother and Other Botanical Atrocities by Amy Stewart. So it's just a cute little reader. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks to Shelley Funai for her 20-plus years of dedicated service to Stan Hywet Hall, and for speaking to the AB members about plants and their connections to humans. The Auxiliary Board of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens invites you to join the organization in their support of Stan Hywet Hall, and invites you all to attend the AB's Ohio Mart, held every October at Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens.